Hey everybody, what is going on? It's PMOC at 86 Drive. Now, since the last time I shared with you a video about driving with the PC and my simulation rig, I've made a few minor updates to the system, mostly just to make things a little more convenient for me. For instance, what I was trying to avoid was having to lug the PC all the way over to where the TV is. So I got some extension cables that allow me to connect the HDMI cable from the TV over to the PC, and also a longer USB extension cord that runs from the steering wheel and pedals setup over to the PC. So those both were runs of about 20 to 25 feet long that I needed to get longer cables in order to not have to carry the PC all the way over whenever I wanted to play some of the racing games like Assetto Corsa. Now, one of the other cool gadgets that I got is this wireless keyboard, which is super compact, and it works really well. It uses wireless technology. I just plug in a USB dongle into the PC, and I can be all the way over on the other side of the room with this keyboard. It's also got a mouse trackpad on it, so I can use that to work my way through the menus and the screen as if I was sitting at the PC, but I don't have to get up out of the racing seat in order to change any settings or go through the menus while I'm playing the games. Well, that's enough about the setup. Let's dive into some more driving.
So one thing you've got to keep in mind about Assetto Corsa is that it's a relatively old game. It came out back in 2014, so that makes it about 6 years old, and the graphics compared to more modern titles are a little bit dated. Fortunately, however, there are a number of mods that you can add to Assetto Corsa that actually improve the graphics, adding improved lighting and even weather, which the original game did not include. So the mods I've installed are Custom Shaders Patch and Sol 2.0, and I'll show you right now some of the differences in the visuals. What I've done here is change the time of day to early morning at about 6:30 in the morning, right around sunrise. And I've also set the weather to thunderstorm, which looks and sounds awesome. You can already see there's some flashes of lightning. You can see the occasional lightning bolt. And then sometimes you'll hear the thunder. The difference in the lighting is quite striking. You see these rays of sunshine coming through the clouds and through the trees. And the difference in the coloring and the lighting, just from the fact that you can now have different times of the day, whether it's the morning or nighttime, instead of just broad daylight, like you saw from my previous Assetto Corsa video. But now you can have sunset, the middle of the night. It just gives such an immersive feeling to the driving experience. So if you've just got the basic installation of Assetto Corsa on your PC and you haven't installed the Custom Shaders Patch and Sol 2.0, I definitely recommend these as mods. Some of the first things you should probably install to just improve the overall look and experience of the game. Okay, up next, I want to check out a few new cars and some new tracks. First up, I've got the Singer highly modified Porsche 911. If you've never heard of the Singer Porsches, it's essentially a resto mod, but taken to the extreme. These are just absolutely beautiful cars that the Singer company will go to great pains to restore and improve every aspect of the car. It's just a wonderful car. But I think realistically, due to their costing maybe $400,000 or more, so highly unrealistic that I'll ever get a chance to drive one in real life. But now, in Assetto Corsa, I have that opportunity, and I'm going to take it. And what we are driving on here is a new track that I just downloaded. It's called Topanga Canyon Hill Climb. And it is based on a real road down in Southern California near Malibu. It's a beautiful road. The creator of this track did a wonderful job capturing the scenery with the trees and the canyons, some of the buildings. The whole thing is modeled on a real place. Even the road signs look real. I've never driven this road in real life, but it feels very realistic. And I would love to be able to go down there and experience this road for myself. Maybe one day. You know, I just picture running into somebody like Jay Leno cruising along in an awesome car on these roads. And this Singer Porsche 911 is such a beauty, such a pleasure to drive. It drives wonderful, it sounds wonderful. The creator of this car mod did a really great job. It really sort of gives you a sense of how special this car is. So the car model, I'll give it a 9 out of 10 score. Definitely check it out. It comes with 3 different variants. There's a 4-liter model that makes about 390 horsepower, and that's rear-wheel drive. And then there's also an all-wheel drive model. And this model that I'm driving is actually the lower-powered 3.8-liter model that makes about 300 horsepower. You know, sometimes less is more. I think for such a classic car, you probably will enjoy a more pure experience if you drive the lower horsepower version. The Topanga Canyon Hill Climb map, I'm going to give that also a 9 out of 10. I think the creator did a really great job. And I can see myself really enjoying doing relaxing weekend cruises along this kind of road, just like the LA Canyons track that I featured in the last video. Okay, now turning my attention to a local track. This is Thunderhill Raceway up in Willows, California. This is a racetrack that I've actually driven at many times. And so of course I've chosen to drive in a Subaru BRZ. This is a slightly modified version that is designated as a track model. I think it pretty closely approximates what my BRZ is like. It's got a supercharged engine making about 300 horsepower. It's got some modified suspension, some stickier tires. I was really excited to find out that someone had made a copy of the Thunderhill racetrack available for Assetto Corsa. This track is made by a guy named Tyrone, and he's on Patreon. He makes tracks on the side, and he just accepts donations from people that want to support his work. This track is still sort of in a beta version, but if you're not familiar with Thunderhill, it's a race facility that has two tracks. There's the original east track, which is 3 miles long, and then there's the newer west track, which is 2 miles long. Normally those tracks are run separately, but they can be combined to make one bigger 5-mile long track. I have to say the east track is fairly close to the real thing. I'm really impressed. The west track is not quite as good. I think it needs a little more work. Some of the elevations are a little off and the turns aren't quite accurate. But all in all, a very good effort. And like I said, it's still a beta version, so it's a work in progress. I think it'll get better with time. Even now, as it currently stands, it's a great track to drive on, and I think it's just great to be able to drive a track that I've driven on in the real world, and I can use this as a form of practice in between actual track days. So for now, I'll give it a 7 out of 10, with the potential to be even higher on the score once it's been tweaked and improved a little bit more. As for the Subaru BRZ model, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 rating. I think there's a few things about it that don't quite feel right. I'm not sure if the brakes are too powerful, but the car tends to pull to one side when I get on the brakes. Maybe that's my fault, but I haven't experienced that problem with other cars. Okay, let's do one more. This is Chuckwalla Valley, another racetrack in Southern California. And this track is also done by Tyrone. He's also created the Streets of Willow track. So, pretty cool that he's done several of the popular California tracks. And if you sponsor him or donate to his Patreon page, you'll get access to all of the tracks that he's been working on. Chuckwalla is another racetrack down south that I haven't had the opportunity to visit yet, but it looks like such a really fun track, and it's wide open with lots of runoff space, so it seems like a perfect kind of track for you to really push the limits and have fun without too much risk. So I'd like to get down there sometime and be able to drive the actual track. But based on some of the videos that I've seen of people who've run the actual track, this track seems to be fairly close to the real thing. The turns and the curbing seem to be spot on, and there's not a ton of scenery on this particular track because it is out in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert. So I'll give this custom track a score of 8 out of 10. In terms of completeness, this track does seem a little more finished than Thunderhill. However, it does still lack some of the camera placements on the track that would allow proper replays. When you're watching your replays, you want to be able to see the car passing by various camera locations on track. That's something that the track designer needs to put into the map. Right now, for both the Thunderhill and Chuckwalla maps, those camera points are missing. So if you try to activate those external race cameras, you could potentially crash the game, or they might not work. I think the designer is simply waiting until the track is finalized before adding those in. The car I'm driving here is the Lexus SC300. It's a fun car. can see I'm throwing it around a little bit, and it seems to respond fairly well. The Nardi steering wheel is a nice touch. In terms of rating the model of this car, I haven't actually driven the real car, but there are some weird qualities about this particular model. I think the engine sound is a little strange. There are just certain points where it sounds a little off. Let me know in the comments below if you own an SE300 or have driven one. Let me know if you think that the sound is normal or if there's something just weird about it. Just at times it sounds a little quivery, or I don't know, it just sounds like the engine's shaking itself apart or something. Maybe it's just me. But I'll give this car model a score of 6 out of 10, mainly because of the sound that I think throws me off a little bit. Anyways, I'm pretty happy to have a pretty wide collection of racetracks that are local to the California region. So at this point I've got Sonoma, Thunderhill, Laguna Seca, which comes with the game. And down south I've got the LA Canyons, I've got Willow Springs, Chuckwalla, and Topanga Canyon. I think one of the remaining tracks that I have yet to download is Buttonwillow Raceway, which is another favorite track of mine. So I'm a little excited to get my hands on that track. I understand there's a company that makes a fairly accurate model of Buttonwillow. So let me know if you've driven it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it worth spending a few bucks to buy that track?
Well, that's it for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, and take care, guys. See you next time.